Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Paul Masters. This is episode 1 of this week's Deep Dive on Live. And today we're talking about something very near and dear to my heart, very special, and that is sales go-to-market strategy. I know it's a fun time when we're talking about sales because sales is interwoven into everything that we do. Today's deep dive is going to take each part of the traditional business and process, and we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into how to look at that from a sales lens and redevelop, rebuild, upgrade our go-to-market strategy to execute from a sales angle that will help drive revenue. And that's really what SGTM is. It's something that we've coined and something that we follow here at Pivotal Founders and something that we teach. And I'm really excited. So if you stick around, at the end of this chat, I have something very special I'm going to be offering and talking about because as we launch the community, there is something really awesome that's coming in September. So stick around and you will see what that is. Anyway, diving right in, let's talk about the traditional go-to-market strategy. That's the first step, right? So go-to-market is the strategy of how people see your product, brand, and process, right? So, and again, this is a bit of my own spin on go-to-market for today's sales systems and strategies. Go-to-market is how people experience your company, your product, your brand. And when you go to market from a sales lens, you have two aspects that you have to consider and worry about. And by worry, I mean be concerned with, pay attention to. No need to worry. We're here. All your problems will be solved very shortly. The first part of this is looking at your marketing process from the sales lens, and that's part of your go-to-market strategy. And the second piece is your brand, which is the other path. Now, marketing from that lens, when you go to market, is the short-term awareness that you're going to create with your audience, and in your niche, okay? And then the branding component is the long-term play of having the people, having your audience really go, wow, I love this brand. That's that long-term internalization of them adopting what? Your methodologies, your process, your thoughts, whatever it is that your business is meant to represent, that's then internalized by your audience, and then it turns into a brand. And then they go, I love this brand. And many people make this mistake when they go to market is they try to build brand, but their expectations are off because brand is slow, it's tedious, it's a journey, and it's all driven by your customers. Brands are built by the customers that experience your product or service. There is no way to manipulate that. But to accelerate that process, we have to look at marketing. And marketing is that short-term awareness creator to allow those customers to experience it. So as we deep dive into sales go-to-market strategy, I'm going to really hone in on, especially for founder-led businesses, meaning you're kind of leading charge on some of your business initiatives, why it's so important to evaluate your go-to-market strategy from a sales lens, number one. But number two is how to go from marketing to building brand in one full swoop. And that's really what I believe the future of sales is, and why go-to-market needs to be looked at from a sales lens, even though we're talking about marketing and branding, because those are the two pieces that create awareness for your product or your company or your business. So starting from the beginning, let's take a look at what happens when we're looking to go to market or we have gone to market what are the things that we're thinking about? Let's take a nice deep dive there. Well, like I said earlier, we're looking at experience, right? What is the experience my clients are going to have? But even more so, more importantly, what is the experience that my prospects are going to have, right? And your prospects may be people that became aware of you from an email outreach or LinkedIn outreach, or people that may became aware of you from a video you posted, right? Or some kind of content you put out there. They also may have become aware of you from potentially some ads that you ran, right? Again, creating that awareness. And so we're looking at that particular experience and asking ourselves before we look at anything product oriented is, what is their experience once they recognize or realize that they're interacting with the business, with our brand? And the best way, in my opinion, to let them showcase that is high touch early interaction. That marketing is going to, that marketing push of high touch early interaction is going to immensely help you when it turns into converting them to brand, because the initial experience that they have in this high touch environment, I'll talk about that in a second and what that actually looks like, and what I'll deploy, for example, we deploy in Pivotal Founders. I'm going to use this real-time examples for you. That's going to ultimately lead to a couple things. Number one, potential network effect. Wow, what an experience. I'm not even a client, but woo, it elevated me. I can't believe they're putting in so much effort into me when I'm not even a customer yet. That's where you win. You win before they become customers. When they become customers, there's other things, but right now is what we're focused on. So network effect means they're telling the world about what's going on. They're sharing whatever it is that they've experienced. That's what you want to trigger, right? It's that experience about them. So you're thinking, go to market from a sales lens, pre-interaction with product, what's out there. And it's not what they're reading on your website. It's how are they experiencing your website? How are they experiencing the process of inquiring on your website? That is such an important part of sales go-to-market, because the selling starts as soon as they identify your business. And in the early stage arena here, as they go through this process, the best way to help them understand and connect with you and your business, especially if it's founder-led, is being the brand. As a founder, you're becoming part of that brand building exercise. And I find a lot of founders that I deal with in sales go-to-market like to hide behind their company. I'm not comfortable making a video. I'm not comfortable, picking up the phone. I'm not comfortable putting out content, doing webinars. There's a lot of that. But unfortunately, if you don't step up to that, you're going to have a really difficult time building your brand, because what you need and what you become as you start to put yourself out there this way is you become a bridge for the marketing to the actual brand of the business. You are that bridge. And that bridge strengthens more and more and more as the company evolves and as your more and more customers or even prospects experience the brand. And eventually the bridge is so solidified, so cemented, that you can step away from that, and now that branding, marketing to branding bridge is built and people can just cross it. So let's take all of this and use it in a real life example and what this can do for somebody that experiences your brand before they even become a customer, and how you could be that bridge. If I launched a community, which we'll talk about as a pivotal pillar of the future of sales and go-to-market, communitization. I talk about this all the time. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's not just good. Segue. Deep dive on live. This is off the cuff, by the way, just so everybody knows. I speak from the heart, from experience, from the mind. I want to give you raw, real stuff that you can act on right away. Solving problems for founders is what I do. I digress. So when you're going through that process of being the connector and bringing them from marketing into brand, let's take an example, right? So they come in, Pivotal Founders, and they apply. Okay, that's just that little piece. Now you can send them a slew of emails. You can. Hey, welcome, thanks a lot. And all the companies do this. I get it. And it's fine and it works because you have your email sequence. Hey, thanks, saw you apply. Day 2, hey, have you been able to explore this? Of course you want to have that. But let's take an example when I become the bridge and I say somebody came into Pivotal Founders and applied, maybe created an account to join our community, and I gave them a call. Hey, what's going on, Liz? This is Paul, founder of Pivotal Founders. I just wanted to call and say thank you so much for taking the time to sign up and become a member of Pivotal Founders. Now, mind you, this is a free experience, right? They just signed up. And I'm going, hey, thank you so much. And, I just wanted to, put a voice and, to the name. If you ever need anything, let us know. I'd love to hear more about your experience. La da 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 da. And, here's some ways you can navigate the platform. And by the way, what are some of your objectives when joining, right? So I'm collecting some off-the-cuff data. Now, this call could be recorded. There's things you can do with that information later on. And of course, you're going to prime them, right? And by the way, you're going to get a couple of emails coming up here with a survey and some information. It would be really awesome if you filled that out because that'll help us help you because we want to solve real problems. And so if we know what your issues are, we can build for your success. Whoa, Lizzie goes, that's amazing, Paul. Thank you so much. Da, 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 da. Now, what happened here, okay? If I spent my time, hour, 2 hours a day even, interacting with members in this fashion as I build this bridge from marketing to brand, what I'm building is a very solid infrastructure and foundation because I'm putting my sales hat on in my go-to-market strategy. And I'm not waiting until they become a customer, let's say, to really interact with them and really help them understand what we're all about. Those champions who you've now created are going to scream at the mountaintops about their incredible experience before anything had ever happened. They didn't even spend any money with you yet, but yet they already feel elevated, connected. In this world, how everything is today, it's highly unlikely that you will ever get a phone call or even a voice note, which is a secondary piece that I want to bring if you aren't trying to get on calls, at least in the beginning, to build your brand bridge. You heard it here first, the brand bridge. I like that. So nobody's calling. So if you do that, no matter what your product or service is, no matter what happens, you've now differentiated yourself from every other platform. And in a very tool-driven, SaaS-driven, hyper-technology-focused ecosystem that we are all part of as founders, having that little differentiator will set the stage, it'll set the bar way higher. And it'll be very difficult for even more mature businesses to compete with you because the experience is completely unique. Now, first, before I move on as to the next phase here, let's deep dive into how this could be systemized. Well, what if you just did a recording welcoming a member or a subscriber or a freemium, say you have a SaaS company, somebody freemium or somebody inquired, they watched a piece of content, signed up for something for your agent. I mean, any of these businesses works. And they immediately get a quick text, and it's a voice note from you, the founder, saying, "Hey, really, really excited that you're interested. Got nothing to sell you. Just wanted to say that I'm here, and if you have any questions, our team really appreciates communication. So just let us know." And then primer. And by the way, here's how you can maximize what you have going on. especially in trials for SaaS software or other things where there's like a time limit for their experience with your brand, right? A free trial is a free experience that is time-based for your brand. That is going to make the impact because they're going to be guided by more than just a slew of emails or some wizard that they have when they first sign in. What an incredible opportunity to connect with somebody. Now we're diving deep into this. Where's the network effect here? What happens once this bridge is created? Well, let's just say this person that you called happens to own 50, let's just say 58 real estate agencies. Let's say this person happens to own a VC firm with a portfolio of over 200. Let's say this person is someone that has their own community of 20,000 people and just happen to pop over to see if what you're offering is worth it, right? So while many of these conversations could be one-to-one and those champions can go out and say, hey, I had this great experience, or if they come in a conversation, that still builds that network effect. But one of those people is ultimately going to be a massive channel opportunity for you to expand very drastically. And if they all have that elevated experience, you're bound to get one of those. And that's really what we're looking for when we look at sales go-to-market is how can we maximize an opportunity to do big business, to go further with customers when they're interacting with our ecosystem, our company, our brand, before they even spend any money with us. And how do we set the bar so high that when they go everywhere else, they're going to feel like they had something special and ultimately come back and earn their business, right? That, I think, is a really important lesson learned for me personally, and I think for everybody listening. The next action step with this is, at what point could I personalize and elevate my interaction with prospects or my audience so that they feel like I'm bridging the gap from marketing to them to actually enabling them to experience my brand? And how do I become that bridge? In a more mature company where you have departments and divisions, say marketing, you have a marketing division, a VP of marketing, I would highly encourage incorporating that into your sales and marketing combo strategy so that your leads actually become an experience. And that, I think, is the first step into what I call the communitization of sales. And that means that you're driving revenue, sales, and driving revenue, sales, and customer success through building a community. So we're gonna do a deep dive into that. So step one is giving them that elevated experience. Now, what happens next? So one of the other pieces of go-to-market that's always in question is, well, there's a product that you're offering or a service that you're offering. You've elevated the experience, but now how do we make this product better in the eyes of my first potential customers and even current customers? And when you look at it from a sales lens, right, sales go-to-market, you're focused on one very particular thing. And that one very particular thing is solving their problems, but not necessarily with your service or product. Now let's take a step back and think about it. They don't know what they don't know. And just because they're inquiring for your solution, for your service, for your association, for your whatever, doesn't mean that all their problems are solved and they're ready to go. Matter of fact, statistically, from my experience, 95% of people that interact with a business through marketing are not ready to buy right now. 95% of agencies and other businesses related to revenue growth, lead generation, whatever, outsourced sales, all of them are focused on the 5%. And the 5% are the people ready to buy now. They happen to not have any other issues, no barriers financially to purchase product, service, whatever it may be, and they are on time, meaning timing's right. And when you've got timing, everything else falls into place, right? That's really what marketing is about, is helping us spread awareness to our audience and capture all the people where the timing is right, right? The timing of the problem solution is right there in front of us. Now think about this. You've got a whole market, billions and billions of dollars through various agencies. I mean, just go on Instagram and you'll see all the ads. Go anywhere, you'll see all the ads, right? A whole industry dedicated to 5% of the market. 5% of the addressable buyer's market where problem, solution, timing matches, okay? Now, what about the other 95%? What happens to all those people? Well, most of the time, they go to the wayside. There's very few organizations, even at mature levels, that really focus on enabling and nurturing those folks. Why? Well, because they're not ready to become customers, so we really can't focus on them because we got to focus on revenue. But really what we're doing is we're leaving 95% of potential revenue on the table because the 5% is still a limited market. So how do we do that? Let's deep dive into looking at that part of it from a sales lens. Go-to-market strategy and execution to the I'm not quite ready right now. Those prospects and those leads, they typically come from things like events. They typically come from things like webinars. They typically come from things like your ads. They come from email, right? And you've got to remember that they don't owe you a sale just because you reached out to them and the timing is right or whatever. They don't owe you a sale because they came to your event. They don't owe you anything. But what you owe them is to help them solve their problems regardless of whether they're a customer or not. And that switch in thinking can provide your business with much, much more opportunities for revenue simply because you're now focused on solving problems of an audience that may or may not buy from you, but at least you're there to help, rather than leaving them at the wayside and focusing on the ones you think are ready to buy. Every sales machine pretty much that I've ever evaluated focuses on active leads, people that have done something or had multiple interactions with a product or service. Very few have really said, well, we actually focus a lot of our time on people who might not be ready for a year. Where do we go? Well, this is where, again, bridging the gap from marketing to brand, we put forth a community. What does a community do for your business? It enables you to understand what problems your audience has, what problems your target leads have, what problems your future customers have in a very open and unique way. Number two, it creates a perception of value because when you bring all of these people together into a hub, they start to interact. And you start to spin up discussions and you get action and attention and buzz. And that then builds an ecosystem. And that ecosystem is going to be an entire lifeblood and revenue stream for your business because that's what's actually building your brand. Slowly migrating community members whose problems you've solved into your client bucket by eliminating over time all the barriers of trust, economics, and time. Another thing community does for your business is it helps you organize and nurture in a very effective way all of the people that could become customers in the future, so that you don't have to worry so much about chasing them down through additional email campaigns or outreach or always running ads to them. You can segment them into a value-added portal, if you will, association, community, same thing, organization, separate, and focus that on how do we add value, how do we help drive positive outcomes to that community, and how do we reduce all the barriers and friction so they buy. And when they buy, it's a natural process of crossing the bridge from marketing to brand, because people buy from brands. They love the brand. And eventually crossing enough people over that bridge from marketing to brand ultimately creates your brand. But it starts with organizing your audience. Another really important factor of this is audience ownership. Think about what ads are doing for you. Think about what emails are doing for you. Think about what social media is doing from you. You're leasing attention. You're leasing action. You're leasing interaction. Your objective is to convert that leased audience into a bought audience, or a engaged audience, or a segmented audience revolved around your business. And chances are, if they're looking for your product or service, or they're responding to your emails in some way, shape, or form, or clicking on your links, they're clearly somewhat in the realm even of potentially want to do business with you. You have activity. It's better than nothing. And now the mission becomes, let's solve those problems. So it's a massive shift from leasing to owning, so that you don't perpetually have to continuously run ads and push emails. You can slowly siphon those folks into something you have more control over, okay? That's how you can collectively engage the 95% until they turn into the 5%. So let's take a deep dive next. Now we've talked about community. We're not going to go too much into the tools. The deep dive today is really on strategy and action, tool agnostic, because you first have to understand and synthesize the process yourself before you could add the tools to it. So what your action items are from the community aspect of it, and I'm assuming that we've gone past the stage where we need to figure out our ICP, or ideal client profile, meaning we already know our audience, we know where they are, what they do, we understand them better, intimately actually, and we're at the phase now where community matters, because if you don't understand your audience, building a community for them is going to be more challenging. So I'm going to assume that that's in place for you, but if not, before you move on this, and we're going to talk about this in one of my other shows, you have to get your audience figured out. Your target audience needs to be intimately understood, primarily about what outcomes they want to achieve or want to have, and what problems stand in the way of them and their success. Most importantly, outside of your service and product offering. Because there's a much higher chance somebody will buy from you within community if you're focused on genuinely solving their problems through your experience that you must have around your product or service, but not necessarily in the scope of your product or service. I'll give you an example, and then we'll talk a little bit about action items for community and what's next. I have clients. We have a consultancy, right? So Pivotal Founders is a community, but we also work with clients one-on-one to help them build these processes and systems and help them shape their sales go-to-market strategy and overall business infrastructure. This conversation we're having is talking to the 95%. Hello, right? Because my objective is not to help them necessarily. I'm not asking them to join the community. I'm not asking them to jump onto one of our accelerators. I'm not even asking them to buy our consulting or sales transformation systems or anything of that nature. I'm not asking anything. All I want to know is what problems can I solve for you within the realm of my expertise, which is around go-to-market from a sales perspective, because sales is how everything flows. And if you look at things from a sales lens, you'll have a much easier time understanding where your gaps are. So go-to-market must be sales-focused, driven by the value and impact you're going to have for your prospects, because your prospects are who will ultimately become your customers. So in our example, this show is a way to prove my point, because I have my only intention right now is to give as much actionable information as I can so that you see me as someone that really gives a ish about your success, which I do, because if I didn't, then none of this works. So I believe in what I'm offering, and I believe and actually use the information and have used the information and execution of that information in order to get to where I want to go. And now I'm genuinely looking to solve those same similar yet unique problems for the entrepreneurial founder community. Whether it's a side hustle, whether you're running a massive organization, it doesn't matter. You bring it back to the fundamentals, you look at the foundation, you look under the hood, and no matter what I tell you, there's always ways to improve that when you're looking at it from a sales lens, right? So this is actually an example of this in action, because I have an interest in helping bring you into the 5%, but I can only do that if I eliminate all of your problems first and get you thinking the right way and get you executing the right way and have all your action items out the right way. So then when you come and work with us or go into one of our accelerators or even join the community to collaborate and connect with people, you're empowered to also give, and you know what it is that you want to solve. And so many people are out there looking for tools, solutions, services, associations, programs, even community, but they don't know what they don't know. That's the thing. And so we really have to help align what we're out here to help them do with their actual problems. And we have to segue that into our product or service. We can't just only focus on that one thing. There's other factors. So here are the action items. You now intimately know your audience. We've talked about making that assumption, yes? Now, let's look at a list. I know I hate writing lists too, but you got to write stuff down. What are the problems your audience, your potential customers have, as detailed, as intimately as you can get them? What are they outside of your product offering and also inside of your product offering? So what do they not know that they don't know, right? What are the elements that will remove barriers and create aha moments for them that will trust that you're in the business of helping them get to their outcomes? And then, only then, they'll look by and they'll go, oh, and I can use this product or this service or this association to help me expand on all of these things that you have solved for me. So your action item number one, I repeat, is writing down, call them inner and outer problems or challenges my prospects or my audience is experiencing every day. And then two, of course, we need to build an avenue of support. How do we convey the solutions, right? And this is going to be the next step we deep dive into. So what happens when you think about, okay, let's get community, let's get them together. Then what do we do, right? And this is where it all comes together here. This is this pivotal point where I now know my audience's problems inside and out. I know what problem they're about to have, that once they solve that, now they're going to seriously consider my product. Now they're going to seriously consider my service. At what points is your audience highly likely to consider working with you, and what stands in the way of that usually? Now, that might be surveying your clients to get that information. That might be doing a bunch of different Google searches. You can ask ChatGPT to give you some ideas, but utilize that and get really specific with that, because what you're going to do is you're going to use that information to start to attract that audience into your community on the preface that these are the problems you're actually solving. Eureka. So now it's, hey, I sell leads and blah, 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 blah. No. How about, hey, there's a community of passionate entrepreneurs who are looking to get into lead generation, and we're helping them solve problems that they didn't even know they have, in hopes that we can get them to then try out our product or service, because when they look at how it's done and they realize that process, they can then make a determination of whether they want to do it themselves or whether they want to outsource it to us. And now the decision is not, do I want to work with you or not? It's, I want to work with you, but I want to try this myself first, or I want to work with you because I am now educated on how to solve this problem. I understand the difficulty of it. I understand the annoyance of it, let's say, and here's my money. What we're doing here is we're helping our future customers elevate their knowledge and even giving them the path to implementing all of these things, so that they can then come back and go, oh, now I get why I need to work with you guys. You've eliminated all these barriers, both mentally and materially. Like, now I know what I need to do. But you know what? Now that I know all that, guess what? Here's the business, or here's the membership, or whatever that may be. And so it's this process of education. It's this process of solving problems in community, or like right now, right? We're in community because I'm talking to a group. I'm talking to the people that are listening to this on LinkedIn. I'm talking to the people that are on YouTube. I'm talking to everybody that is interested and aware, to tell them, hey, I'm here helping you solve problems. This is what I do. And if I can get those barriers out of your way, you'll be ready to work with me when you are, because if I can educate you and show you how to implement, then the decision is, do I have the time or not? And delegation is scale. If you don't delegate, you can't scale, no matter how large your business is. You just have to understand what you're delegating, how to delegate, how to monitor, and how to maximize value of that delegating. So I want to take that example one step further, and then we'll talk about some action items in terms of, now that we've written down all their problems, now that we understand what's going on, what's next for that audience? How do we start to engage with them and actually solve those problems, right? But one thing I want to bring up as you're thinking through their issues and you're thinking through the problems and challenges, and remember, this is really, really, really important. When you're looking at the typical problems they have, make sure to focus on what are the typical problems they have with companies like mine, with services like mine, right? What problems are they probably, if I'm a marketing agency, what problems did they have with other marketing agencies? What are the typical problems? Because I need to solve for those too. Otherwise, they're just going to compare me to another one, right? So the way to differentiate yourself now, which you can actually do in community because you've segmented your audience, and it's really hard to differentiate yourself in an ad, right, It's not easy unless you have brand, which is what differentiates you. But we don't have that yet. We're building the bridge. So we do that in community to our prospects by understanding their previous problems and actually showing them how we solve those. So, a lot of times when I've talked to people working with marketing agencies, they'll say, they told me they were going to do X, Y, and Z, and that didn't happen, or they didn't execute, or it didn't work, or they didn't communicate really well, or they had a great plan and vision, but then it didn't work out. I mean, there's a gazillion different things. Or this software is supposed to do this, but it didn't do that, and I have this problem with CRM tools or whatever it may be. You got to know that. And not, if you have customers already, survey. If you have prospects, if you have people in the pipeline, if you have LinkedIn, post, ask, inquire. Very, very important to understand those typical problems, because those are going to be just as important to solve in community. And you can actually ask for that by surveying your community or having an event to do this, which is something I do as well, called AMA, Ask Me Anything, another show we do. And that show helps me not just understand, but also show how I would answer or solve the problems and the questions that are coming at me from all these different sources, from founders, entrepreneurs, leaders, from all stages of business in a variety of different industries. But why it all works is because I bring it right back to the fundamentals. When you're looking at go-to-market from a sales lens, your sales motion will build the emotion, and it is agnostic of necessarily the industry and all of that. Now, there are some specific things that you're going to have to look at for your particular industry on your own, but when you look back at the fundamentals, the pillars, the frameworks, all of those things, they're pretty much intact, and they can cross industry, they can cross, enterprise, mid-market, SMB, you can go service, you can go product, whatever. So, taking this all full circle, we've now identified, as we dive deep into this whole community piece, what we need to do to help get that community's problem solved, questions answered, etc. But we need the how. How do we do it? Well, there's a couple of ways. The first way is, of course, the easiest way is you text. You send a message to all of them. You send them emails. You discover things around those problems and topics, and then you send them a video or you send them a newsletter, right? So that's a one-way interaction. That's the easier way to start if you're not comfortable doing something like I'm doing, for example. You can start engaging that way, but the idea is, as long as I am now going from selling them with my outreach to solving problems for them with my outreach, look at the difference. I am going from marketing to branding, because now, as a founder or as a team that is concerned with not selling but solving, I'm in a completely different sphere in their mind and in their inbox, because when they see my emails now, it wasn't, hey, have you got my last 7 emails that I wrote about the thing I'm just trying to sell you and you ignored me, but I'm just going to keep following up because I think that email is going to be the email where you go, oh yeah, oh my God, how could I have missed the other 7 emails you wrote about the same exact thing that I ignored, and I'm going to buy from you. I swear to God, like it was just about to happen. I'm so glad you sent the 8th, because those 7, solid, but I needed that 8th one to go to get over the hump. Never going to happen. How many cold emails do you receive? How many cold outreaches do you receive where people are inviting you into community, where people are inviting you to solve problems, where people are trying to genuinely show that they want to help you, not sell, but solve? I don't know. I get very few. But the ones I do, I'm always like, all right, because people are doing this. This is not undone. This is being done. But you have to be patient because, right, you need money, you need revenue, business has to grow, right? So you're always thinking, okay, well, I'm investing in this tool, I'm doing this system, I'm doing blah, 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 blah. and I need to sell, sell, sell. Yes, there's a time for that. But if you just consider a bit of delayed gratification and focus on solving versus selling, man, you're now catering to the 95%. And that is such a bigger pool. And once that pool gets activated, if you can outlast the desire to sell, 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 sell throughout your journey, you will then be rewarded later down the line, because then the machine is on and people appreciate being catered to, communicated with, elevated in their experience with your product, service, tool, community, whatever it is. And then they just start to pop on in. Hey, I saw what you were doing. You helped me with this thing. I had a huge problem. You helped me solve it. I want to learn about how you can help me. I want to learn about what you do. I get those all the time. And those are the best, because now we're having a genuine conversation, and it's not about selling. It's about solving. I keep saying that because it really is the key. And my strategy calls that I have with clients and even prospects are meant to do one very specific thing. They're meant to help them understand where we're going, what we're doing, solving that problem, and then saying, are we good to help you with that? And they go, yeah, that's the problem I want to solve, and I believe that that's the way we can solve it, and I trust the process, and then we execute. And then we move on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And it doesn't all happen at once, but we're always focused on solving, because when you solve, the sale happens relatively automatically. Because inherently, solving a problem requires an investment of either time or money. Which one do you want to save? If you have all the time in the world, here you go. But if you don't, which you shouldn't, because if you do, then something's off here. You must be delegating so that you can grow. So if you're the one in the weeds, you have to have an end goal for that. A little bit of a segue. You have to have an end period of, hey, I'm in this until this, and then it's delegated. And then that helps you think differently about this process. And I talk to some people, and they're in the weeds. I'm working on my website. I'm working on this email thing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, how long are you gonna do that until you go, all right, I can't sit there and do, it's not my expertise. Like, I need to be doing this, and I just need to bite the bullet and delegate that. Well, you need the knowledge, right? Okay, but if I do, how do I evaluate a person to help me with that? How do I find them? How do I delegate? What do I do with this? I know I need to do that. And then once you start thinking about that, you're now not solving the problem of how do I figure out my newsletter, for example, but it's how do I figure out how to properly delegate, and execute on that delegation of offloading that off of my plate. Bit of a segue here, because in the deep dive, we go live and we also jump around a little bit. Okay, so back to the main. So you have one way: text, video, voice note, you're communicating, chat. Then there's the two-way, which is, well, let's take a step back. There's also one way, but much more elevated, which is something like this, right? I'm going live and I'm talking to everybody. And I'm putting myself out there in a position where, people could ask me things. I can get thrown off. But I want people to see that I may not have the answers to everything. And if I don't know, I'll say I don't know, but I'll sure as damn try, because that's how they know what I know. And if somebody asks me about something that I don't know, like if you ask me about pay-per-click ads, I'm going to go, that's not for me, but I'll tell you this, I know a monster system on how to identify and delegate a process of somebody to help you with ads, because I have a decade in staffing and recruiting, and I know how to evaluate people and processes, and I know how to hire right agencies and structure the interviews of those partners so that you can avoid making typical mistakes that founders make when they work with an ads agency, for example, or hire somebody to do ads in-house. That's my value. I'm going to connect with my value. So I don't need to know how to do ads. I just need to know how to find and delegate to the ads person. And this is a different conversation, but that's the shift from founder to CEO. Right? As a founder, we do it all. Right? Little by little, we become the CEO, which is delegated, 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 delegated. And now the business starts to really evolve because we've learned that the founding is over. And now we got to run. We got to run the business. We got to work on the business, not in the business. So one-way lives, one-way long-form content, fantastic. YouTube videos, great. Going live on Instagram, if that's where your audience is, awesome. I've got this thing on LinkedIn right now going. It's an audio. Some people are listening, I hope. I don't know. They probably are. But eventually, regardless of what happens, this audience is going to grow. People are going to become more and more aware, and that's what I know is going to happen. But what you must remember when you do all this is community is just like brand. It takes time. You can't just expect people to engage right away. You have to present them with the offer, but you can't be upset if they don't join your live or your Instagram thing. It doesn't matter because you are on a mission, and whoever does show up, even if it's one person, you're going to help them, because if you're willing to stay for one, then eventually 1,000 will come. But if you're not willing to do it for one or even no one, then this won't work, because marketing is the bridge to the brand, or you're building the bridge, from marketing to brand, but you also have to build the bridge to community. And that is a much shorter bridge, but a bridge nonetheless. So when you're doing this, you have to keep that in mind. So this one way. And then another one I really love, which everybody talks about and everybody says you need, is a podcast. Now, what I love about the podcast play is this. Number one, you can invite your potential customers into the podcast to learn more about them, discover their problems, and help shape your sales go-to-market strategy based on those. The second reason I love that, and it doesn't have to be all fancy schmancy, it could just be a candid conversation on Zoom and recorded. That's a podcast. Two people talking, interviewing, and bantering about real stuff around your industry, around problems that you're trying to solve and what they're trying to do. It's beautiful. It's just the best way to really connect. And if you have a low ticket product, for example, and it might be where you say, well, if I'm selling something and it's, SMB, right, maybe $99 a month or whatever, it doesn't matter, because you learn so much. The content multiplies your reach. It's the bridge to the brand. And how will you create awareness in perpetuity if the only way people know about you as your bridge and your business is when you send them an email or they search for it, run an ad? These pieces of content, once distributed, they live independently of you as stepping stones and the blocks and the concrete as you build this bridge, right? That's why all of these components are all necessary as you move from marketing to brand. True brand awareness, true brand experience, large communities around, and there's companies that do this, large communities around a product or service that they've built up over time. They're unstoppable because they're constantly learning about their audience. They're constantly interacting with their prospects. Their prospects are full focus, full force on what they're trying to help them do. And when they're ready to pull the trigger, boom, goes right in. So just remember that when you're running your podcast, it doesn't matter if your customer is going to generate $50,000 a month or $50 a month. The experience is the value. The solving the problem is the value. Because when you put that out there, guess what? 10,000 other businesses may see it, or maybe a company that has similar clients that you do and go, wow, I saw your podcast with, Jim for this blah, blah, blah. And, I've got a lot of gyms in my group, Gyms and Jans. I've got 50,000 of them. Do you think maybe you can do a webinar to my 50,000 Gyms and Jans, and maybe we can do kind of a deal, maybe a rev share? Oh, okay. So you just never know until you go for it and you do it out there. We're almost done. Wow, it's 2 minutes left. Boy, how fun was this? No, this was dope. I can go on for 2 more hours, but I'll spare you. And I had to spare my voice. What I'll sign off with is simply this. This process, as we deep dive into this part of sales go-to-market, you have to believe in it. Because in the beginning, like anything else, like brand and like community, it's a process and it's a slow burn. But you got to know that the only way to multiply yourself and your time is to delegate, is to build content, is to build those pillars out there and to help your prospects solve problems. Do that, and I promise you, your machine will thank you with customers, revenue, value in perpetuity, and you'll be much, much further on your way to building your brand. I want to thank everybody that watched this. At the end of this, I promised I would say something really special. We are launching our first accelerator in early September, and if you jump on at Pivotal Founders on Instagram and follow at Pivotal Founders, we'll be looking at everybody that follows, and if you're selected, you will have a free. It's a 6-week accelerator where we actually implement this. We help a group of ambitious founders implement what I've just discussed and more, and you will have a slot 100% free in that next cohort for the accelerator. So go to, I will actually follow up about this, but go to Instagram at Pivotal Founders and go ahead, and all you got to do is follow, and we will do the raffle. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me for this first episode of Deep Dive on Live. And stay tuned for many more. My next is, we have something tomorrow, I think, where I will be doing some AMA. But they'll be on the schedule. We're getting better at this, right? This just started. So really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. And I'm out of here. Peace. Keep it pivotal, y'all.